basketball, big time visit for the Bears this weekend. And please, no pun intended, bear with me as I try to get this name right. I want to make sure our young man gets his due because he is a big time prospect. And in fact, he is the number 11 overall recruit in the 2025 class. That's according to On3. His name is Tounde Yessoufou from California. And he has scheduled official visits. This word just broke yesterday from Joe Tipton, who is one of the big national guys from On3. And Baylor is on that list. And it is this weekend. Would you believe that? August 29th through the 31st, roughly, he is coming down to Central Texas during Elvis weekend. Can you believe that? Man, they're going to really pull out the stops this weekend. Elvis, home football game, 110 degrees. He is going to see the very best of what we have here in Texas. And so that is a big one this weekend. He has narrowed his list down. It was 8 a few weeks ago. It is now at, if I could do my math here, 7. And these bloods, for the most part, are pretty blue. Outside of Arizona State, you've also got UCLA, Tennessee, UConn, Kansas, and Kentucky. You might have heard of them. The Baylor Bears are in there as well. And there is one, you guys know I love making comparisons when looking at these high school kids or these transfer portal guys that Baylor basketball is looking at. And there's one that jumped off the page for me as soon as I started watching this kid's tape. And I'm not the only one to make this. It's in some of the stories about him. It's in probably the comment sections as well. I see this kid at 6'5" and 210 pounds, had a small forward who is running in transition. And I see Anthony Edwards. I see it. I'm manifesting it. The guy who thinks he's the best player on Team USA, the former number 1 pick in the draft, one of the great legends from the Tom Crean pool. Yeah, I see a lot of Anthony Edwards there. The explosiveness, man, it is off the charts. Off the charts good. I mean, that's how you get to be the number 11 recruit in that 2025 class. Transition, he is incredible. That's where he's doing a lot of his scoring. And he is a meet me at the rim kind of guy. How much so? How about this? In his freshman year in high school in California, they literally had to postpone a game. They had to call a game early because he had a lane to the basket. And he threw that down so hard that the backboard broke. The backboard caved down. They had to call the game. He is a guy who was too much for his own high school basketball team. As a freshman, he did that. My goodness, man. He just played in this elite AAU competition in the summer. 5-star recruit. I got to find the acronym for it. EYBL 17U. AAU, they love just throwing a bunch of games going on at once. They love throwing random acronyms at you, but this is one of the big ones in the summer. He averaged almost 22 points a game, 4 rebounds, and almost an assist and a half. And ranked, according to NBA Draft on SI, ranking in the 96th percentile in points per possession. Love that. This writer goes on to say, and I'll give the writer some credit here. The writer is, it's another name that's tough. Moria Kumpatla is out there covering for SI, the NBA draft board, says he's a dominant athlete who is strong, quick, and an explosive vertical athlete. I don't like using athlete twice in the same sentence, but it bears repeating. He pairs this athleticism with ball handling, finishing craft, and touch on the offensive end while racking up steals and blocks on the defensive end. And through all the stories, it's pretty clear that he's still working on that ball handling. I mean, you can see it in transition. He is a guy who, again, is going to get to the basket. I mean, he is really tough to stop with a full head of steam. And if he develops those handles more, that's where I see him in the future. He's 6'5". He plays a little bigger than that from what you can see on the tape, but you also got to take into account that these are high school kids, even some of the best high school kids. And so I see that 6'5", big body, big frame as a guy who is going to be a guard in the future, either in college or certainly at the level after that. You're not playing small forward at 6'5" in the NBA, and you really can't even do that most times in the Big 12. This story goes on to talk about he shoots 66% at the rim and 65% on layups in this tournament. He can be a play finisher in transition or on cuts and creates his own shot at the rim with the post-ups and the drive. So he does play like a forward if you watch. When he's not in transition, I should say. When he's in the half court, he's playing like a forward. Okay, he's posting up. He's cutting to the basket. They're drawing up plays for him to cut to the basket off inbounds as well. So there's a lot of forward in there. But they talk about his shooting. He shot 44.5% on mid-range. Isn't a huge part of the game anymore. And 60% on floaters and hook shots and 85% at the line. So he's not a huge three-point shooter. I mean, it seems like every player these days develops that at some point, but you are talking about an ultra explosive and ultra aggressive guy who will still probably be able to play some small forward in the Big 12, but is a guy who's going to be an off the ball guard for you. And especially we've seen Scott Drew and Baylor throw out a lot of 3-guard sets really for the last 4 or 5 years now. That's someone who I think could slot into that. But again, we talk about the international success that Scott Drew has, especially with kids coming from the continent of Africa. That's once again, our guy is very much fitting that bill. He moved to California as a high school kid. Tounde Yessoufou did. He is from, Benin is the name of the country. And it's on the coast of Africa, small country. And you just look down the list at how many guys have not only come from overseas. Obviously, Miro Little played a year here recently, but Manu Leconte played a couple years from Belgium originally. But how many of these guys have come from the continent of Africa, right? Almost all of them, of course, moved to the U.S. in middle school or high school. But Flo Thamba, Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua, Yves Missi, who just went in the first round of the draft, Nuni Omat, who just impressed at the Olympics, Joe Lawal-Achuel. It just goes on and on and on. Now, Baylor's best international recruiter is no longer there in John Jacobs, but clearly Scott Drew has a good foothold on getting some of these international kids. And a lot of it is the family atmosphere that's around Baylor. I know some people don't want to keep hearing about that, but that is true. Like, that helps a lot of these kids in making that transition to big time college basketball in the United States before they go on to the next step. And yeah, Tounde Yessoufou has been pretty open talking about his faith and where that has been in his basketball journey. And of the schools I just listed to you, there's one with a religious affiliation, and they kind of take it pretty seriously at Baylor. So look, just as good a shot as anyone. And again, it's still crazy to say that when he's going up against Kentucky and Kansas and UConn, to say that, yeah, Baylor's got just as good a shot as any. But that is where we're at right now. And I love that. Speaking of one of those teams that's also on Tounde Yessoufu's list, could one of them, that's not Kansas or Arizona State, obviously, because they're already here, could one of them be joining the Big 12? Interesting. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. We really appreciate that. And if you want to keep up to date on all the Baylor sports news, be sure to give us a like and ring the notification bell, because we are your first listen today and every day. We are your exclusive home for nothing but Baylor sports content 5 days a week that's not coming straight from the university. Be sure to follow us here on YouTube and also wherever you get your podcasts, and on Twitter as well at Locked On Baylor. Thanks so much again. Have a good one. And sick 'em.